Henry Nouwen, the Danish priest, whose writings have meant so much to me in my own spiritual journey, said one time that you and I move along with just a little bit of light in our lives. We don't have a beam to see all the direction that God is going to lead us. We can't say in a year from now, this is the way it will be. In 5 or 10 years from now, this is the way it will be. What we say is we walk by the light one step at a time, trusting that when we take the next step, that the light of God will be there. In a way, what Nouwen is saying touches on what I want to talk about tonight, and that is Thanksgiving. I'm well aware that the American Thanksgiving is nowhere in the Bible. Obviously, the Pilgrims and the Native Americans didn't have their celebration of the harvest feast until the early 17th century. But even though components of the American experience of Thanksgiving are not in the Bible, there is so much in the Bible about gratitude, about thanksgiving. The Greek word, that wonderful word, charis. If I say to you, I'm going to give you a gift, it is charis. If you say to me, thank you for the gift, it is charis. God, in his incredible love, gives you and me the gift of God's mercy. And we respond to that gift in gratitude. And the same word on both sides, the word charis. I want you to think with me for just a moment about two different scenes in a drama. The scenes aren't separated very much, but they are two distinct scenes. The first scene is on one side of the Lake of Galilee. I know most of us have grown up calling it the Sea of Galilee, but it actually is a lake. It's just a few miles from one side to the other in certain places. On one side of the lake, I want you to imagine Jesus is healing and teaching. Suddenly, the disciples, Andrew and Philip, say, I don't think we have enough food for all these people. What is it that you have? Put it in my hand. And he multiplied so that it was a meal for the multitude. That is the miracle that we usually see on one side of the lake. But there is another miracle that maybe we don't see on that side. It is the miracle of Jesus teaching and healing the multitudes who had come to see. It's almost as if when we celebrate the loaves and the fish, that we're saying the most important thing that happens in church is the covered dish lunch after the service. What is most important is the worship. We don't know what Jesus said, but we do know it was the time of Passover for the Jews, their great salvation experience. And I suspect that what Jesus said to those people that day was this: you remember the Exodus when God brought you out of bondage. I want you to know that God is doing another kind of Exodus, bringing you out of the bondage through faith in me. The people Jesus to the other side of the lake. How long have you been here, Jesus? They say, and Jesus understands what they're really asking. What you're really asking is for me to give you the same kind of food that I gave you on the other side of the lake. But I want to tell you, I'm going to give you a deeper kind of food. I'm going to give you on this side of the lake, I'm going to give you food for your spirit. The food that you had on one side, the hunger will reappear. But this food, the bread of life, if you take that into your lives, you will never hunger and thirst again. I am, Jesus said. Do you know what the people would have heard? They would have heard echoes of Moses in the 3rd chapter of Exodus. God, I want to be the agent of helping my people escape from Egypt, but who shall I say sent me? And God says, you tell them, I am sent you. I am Yahweh, the most sacred name for God. God didn't say, here is a photograph of who I am. Here is a full definition of who I am. Here is a full description of who I am. God said, you simply say, I am has sent you. Listen to Jesus. I am the bread of life. And they would have heard in the deepest parts of their being, not only is he providing us bread for the crises of our lives, for the difficulties of our lives, but this is God. This is God who is giving this to us. There's so much that we're concerned about today. How sad we live in times when there is so much political division, when there's so many words that are said to each other, and now things that are done to each other that are so hurtful. I want to say this in love for the church, but I want you to hear this. The church, a church, is not going to solve the problems. It is the God, the Christ of the church, who will give you and me the strength to face what we have to face. I used to think when I was a young minister, just put some words together and things that are good will happen. And now I've learned it's not just putting words together. It is when the word of God sinks deeply into our lives. It's been a long time, but I still remember when I was in college, I was chaplain of our fraternity. We gathered in the back around a table. When enough of us were gathered and I was there, they asked me to say the prayer. We weren't really religious because the idea was 25 words or less, or you lose your dessert. And frankly, in the school cafeteria, the dessert was about the only thing that tasted good. You're going to celebrate Thanksgiving, and I want you to do something for me. Will you, before you say the prayer, say, I am the bread of life. And I want you to remember that's fewer than 25 words, so you can keep your dessert.